Hello there everybody, welcome back to episode 7 of my tutorial series for Songs of SYX version 66. We are going to go today into the secrets of alcohol creation, but in all honesty, we won't be brewing a single barrel of booze until the next episode, I think, because we are going to go for the entire production chain. While 2 episodes ago we went for the 1-step production chain, last episode we went for the 2-step production chain, now it's time for the next challenge. I have not counted how many steps. The procedure will be as follows. We're going to go over here and found our first clay pit. There we will dig out the clay that we require for the pottery. The pottery then will be used together with the grain at the brewery to create booze. And that's the whole process. So for the first time, we have to bring together 2 products, one raw, one refined, and create a new good out of it, which is basically even more complicated than the, it's a little bit more complicated than the tailoring. But all in all, I think by now it is nothing really confusing about it anymore. What is the biggest deal about it all is that we are now going to build, for the very first time, sort of a remote outpost. The thing is, the further you get away from your central city, the more complicated things will go. We are now going over here for the clay pit. We are by no means super remote, but it is already far enough to warrant the construction of another janitor. I often expand my city with janitors first, because it is a pretty nice habit. This way you never will run into the problem that you have your supply grid undersupplied, and the most important thing is always done first. Now, getting in more workers is extremely important, but we are hitting a hard limit here. Now we're going to use the magic and high-tech of version 66 by going into the services area, and we're going to go into a very important part of the distribution chain, the tavern. The tavern distributes alcohol. And that's a very important thing, that somebody does this very important task for us. The good thing about the tavern in version 66 now is it is inherently providing service, whereas in the previous versions it was only providing service while there was booze. This was a very negative and crappy situation, because that meant the moment the booze ran out, the fulfillment ran out, and when services run out, well, the happiness drops, and you can imagine that there was even rioting happening in some cities when suddenly the booze ran out. This is not too cool when it happens, therefore we now have this system. The tavern requires furniture and fabrics. Luckily we can, by now, provide both of them. Knickknacks and carpets serve the same purpose, with the difference that knickknacks will cost you more furniture, and carpets will cost you more fabric, but that's just a side note. Let's put down the carpet right there, and we have a 100% coziness tavern. This will obviously now take a while until this whole thing is down. We are unemploying the tailors for now and re-employing the weavers as the new harvest is soon in. We have enough cotton coming in for 10 weavers to work with. That's a pretty nice amount, and we're going to work with that. Our city is now growing richer and richer. This is a pretty good thing. It'll also attract people, though, that will take advantage of us, as we have seen in the previous episode when we already got extorted. I am going for the tavern now next, because we run out of people that want to join our little city slowly. That is because we are spreading out our city, we are hiring more and more people, and this is just slowing down the progress of expanding the city bit by bit. That's a very normal thing to happen, and you don't need to worry about that. If you want to increase on these ends, you can also research the fancy hearth technology, allowing you to upgrade your hearths, or we go for the plumbing technology into posh relief, allowing you to upgrade your lavatories, into bathing, which allows you to upgrade your wells. First though, before we can do any of these, we would require some more scientists. Let's see how science is going these days. We have a target of 1.8k, and we have here not even closely filled out these numbers, so it is safe to pick up that tech. We're unlocking plumbing and posh relief at the same time, so we can upgrade that lavatory. Let's check on out where, did I put that down? Here. Now, that upgrade does require quite costly materials. We will require cut stone and pottery. This is a pretty heavy investment, but it is not unfulfillable at all. So therefore, we're going to unassign this one and reassign that one. Let's check back with this. We would need 54 pieces of cut stone. So currently, our industries are draining up all of our income. Especially all those constructions are also draining up our wood. The tavern is eating up all our timber. And it's one of those points where I again order the cutting of some trees to get a quick fix of timber into our stockpiles. Pretty important to do one every now and then, because like I said several times before, timber is a super important resource in every city. Don't you ever let that run out. It's really bad if you do so. Way too many industries are relying on that, and currently how that happened was very simply by just demanding too much timber for various construction projects. So we have to refill these stockpiles. Let's go into super fast mode and wait until things are done again. There we go. The cotton harvest comes on in quite nicely, and we are processing it now. If everything goes down as intended, we are now able to use all these things. Why are you starving? Just grab yourself some food, man. Sometimes some of you people just are reported as starving even though they have perfect access to food and all. It's just like that, you just have to wait. They've been too busy all day. Here it is again. Good. It is always important though to watch out for that icon, because at the end of the day you don't want to not pay attention when people are starving, because that might also be a case of distribution going bad. Several things might be the reason, and it's up to you to find out which reasons there are behind. Before we will be transforming all that fabric now into clothing, we are going to use its market power instead. Let's go over to the faction menu and let's see how much 54 pieces of cut stone will be costing. This is a pretty costly resource, but obviously it's not as bad as bartering for the excess. We are nevertheless going to demand larger sums, so we have a little bit on stockpile afterwards. So 10.5k. Let's see what we can offer. We got more than enough livestock. We won't be missing any of these. And we can now safely put all that fabric into the bed as well. Let's keep a few back at home. And let's throw in the stone. Although timber would be at all points preferable. Right now I don't though, because I want to conserve the timber I got. Here we go. It's the lavatory upgrade. We just need to wait until the materials have arrived. Let's go into super fast mode until then. Here we go. And upgrading the lavatory. These investments are easy to do, easy to understand what you ought to do, and it is a very nice way of using your products that are not too desperately needed immediately. Nobody will go crazy because we are now producing clothing slower, although it is worth noting that this does have a slow decline on the happiness of your people. Anyways, Let's wait until that frickin' tavern is finally done. But you notice already spreading of happiness due to the upgraded lavatory. I mean, seriously, if you were pooping before on that wooden shack environment thing stuff here, look at that high tech. Everybody loves that now. Alright, the tavern is being completed. And we can now see that the lavatory happiness is skyrocketing. This is just what we need. And we're receiving another gift from our neighborsies. Why not? Thanks. At the same time, the janitor's place is being built. Very slowly so, and we have an immediate lock-in of a huge workforce here. Alright, the tavern is pulling in lots of workers. We will put that to a 0 to begin with and leave the auto-employ on so the AI can decide for itself what we're going to do. And the new level has been bestowed on us. We are now apprentices. We can now make rations and we can supply armies. That is where we can start making war, if we want to. But we are still far away from that. Now let's get back to the service tab. Let's see if these were empty promises or if the need for taverns is now fulfilled even with an empty tavern. I don't know if it's actually true, but it doesn't hurt us to have one person here as a experiment employed, and in the worst case we have alcohol cruising around. We have a very, very vivid memory of having read that. Probably just takes a while for the people to realize that this place is now here. Either way, the outpost up here is what we've been actually after. We are just garnishing our city now with little things in between to make sure that we can keep up with the demands. First up, I will bring up a couple of new houses up here because we want to make sure that the workforce of tomorrow has a place where it can live today. We are going to put that down here and set these down like there. We have 16 odd jobbers at our hand, so things are going down quite decently. Until further notice, I will, as a matter of fact, use the fabric production for the sake of upgrading the city. It is absolutely okay to do so for a while, and we're going to produce clothing after we are done with that. It is always good to have a certain material in your city that you're producing that you are fully okay with giving away because you just have so much of it. Alright. I also do realize that maybe we want to increase our furniture production by a notch. So let's bring in 5 more people. That increases the consumption by a bit as well, but we're still net positive. Let's see how much yearly consumption these bad boys have. 270 per year. We have to divide that by 16. That is a pull of more than 10, almost 20 wood per day. So we are not producing enough wood these days. Let's change something about that by setting up more wood cutting. I think the easiest bet for now is just to install a second woodcutter. Refurnishing this woodcutter would make him go inactive for a while, and in the current state of affairs, this is not acceptable. Instead, I'm going to set up a second woodcutter, which will slowly climb into the eastern direction, and this woodcutter will then slowly climb into the western direction. This way, they will never interfere with one another, and we're still going to get the best of both worlds while not getting ourselves into any trouble. We're going to make this one also a little bit larger, because we obviously need a little bit of extra oomph behind our operations here. It also means that we're going to have to invest quite heavily into auxiliaries. That means a heavy investment into furniture. I have mentioned it several times before. Furniture is the real hidden boss of this game, and you will be bumping into high furniture needs quite regularly. As you see here, 130 pieces of furniture requested. It is no shame, absolutely, to go shopping for furniture if you have the issue of providing it yourself. No problem at all. That is, by the way, where the fabric comes into play yet again. But we're going to go for other methods where we're spending our money into, because after all, I want to show off things here. Now, we have the fancy markets technology at our disposal, but I want to unlock bathing as soon as possible. Let's see, our scientists have done it yet again. Let's go bathing. As you see here, even though the target value is really high, it does take many, many days to build this value up, as you see. All right. We have now unlocked the upgrade of wells, so we can now unlock better wells with clay. Luckily, we're going to set up a clay pit now, so let's do that. The problem about the clay pit is it's one of the most labor-intense things in the game that exists. So this little patch here can host a 73 people of workforce. The issue here at hand is the larger the potential workforce of a place, the more auxiliaries you need. The auxiliaries on their end cost furniture again, so it's best to start with your mining ops small. Again, you see where the real pain is at. We have to invest heavily into the auxiliaries. And here again, we have another deep sink for furniture. There we go. But the good note on that is we are earning ourselves here yet again a really stable source of income. The clay will be really, really valuable one day, but we're going to suspend this job for the time being, as I deem the woodcutter right now the much more important decision. So guys, okay, I beg the forgiveness that I have informed you guys falsely. Obviously the tavern doesn't do anything. I'm very sure I read that. But obviously, no booze, no service, and therefore no tavern fulfillment. I'm very sorry. I thought this was a thing. Well, I'll have to recheck after this episode. Now then, we still had the opportunity to hire a ton of people because the posh relief is just suckering them in to stay a little bit longer. We're going to use our money now for buying some clay before we produce the clay ourselves. Let's see, we just will need 80 units of clay. Not that many. So let's say 160 pieces of clay. Clay is a pretty low value good. Therefore, we don't need to invest that many pieces of fabric. And as you see there, fabric is worth much more than clay. But this game has dynamic economies. If we'd be now selling years and years and years of fabric, and we'd be increasing that industry more and more and more, the worth of the stuff would drop into meaninglessness. This is one thing that you always should pay attention to, which means, in a nutshell, you should always diversify your stocks, because otherwise the game will punish you hard for just being too one-sided. We're setting up another warehouse up here. You already might have seen it coming, because obviously that clay needs to be stored somewhere, and if we have warehouses close by one another, we have a nice supply chain easily available there. But yet again, putting a harsh demand on our wood. So we're going to chop some wood externally again. You gotta do what you gotta do to get to pay your dues. That's just what it is. We are receiving lots of new people arriving here. But as you can see here, we can't upgrade the well before the clay is booked into our accounts, so to speak. So if you are trading something, you need to have a crate available where that stuff can be stored at. Otherwise, stuff won't work. So, the finishing touch on the warehouse. Come on, guys. 99%. I hate it when they do that. Makes me always kind of wonder, here. There's still some stone lying on that grid, why they can't finish it. Yeah, sometimes there's small bumps in our way, being a big issue. Now, we're producing 30 pieces of fabric a day, obviously. Let's check out how many of these guys we can supply. I think around 7 of them. Yep. That pretty much is it. Because I'm stopping now to sell off the fabric as it is, we don't need to do that anymore. We're starting to go into the real business. Let's set up clay crates. This entire place can be all full, chock full with clay. And let's see. Here we have another shameless demand. This will happen often. You just have to stomach it and accept it. And here slowly the clay is trickling into the warehouse. The larger your city gets, the more demanding these tasks get, and the longer it'll take to transport things. Stuff that you buy will by default get unloaded in the vicinity of your throne, by the way. So at this point, we maybe want to set up a hauler in between, just like here, who's supposed to pick up the clay. By the way, hauler stations grow in radius with their size. So this one has only a radius of 2. This one already has a radius of 4. So if you make them larger, they go larger too. And here you see the hauler is now successfully transporting the clay onto this little pile. And now I bet our little dudes here can finally store that stuff into the stockpiles. Although I really wonder why the worker here is unable to haul that stuff into the warehouse. I'm not quite sure about what's happening here. These haulers are constantly moving the goods, and that's blocking them. I have no clue what the hell is happening here. I bet that when I'm unemploying them, the stuff can be finally pulled. It is inside the vicinity of the warehouse, so I am positive that eventually it should be transported up there. Okay. So, yeah, in previous versions I know how these things worked. But nowadays I'm at a loss. So this should be pulled. Yeah, here we can tell them to pull it off of the hauler, and that's how we do it. Or at least I hope so. Come on, my boy. Yeah, now they're putting it in there. So you have here pull request slots, and these can be linked to the haulers. The haulers can also be linked to other haulers if you want to do a supply chain. These things have become much more of a hustle these days, but I like it because it reflects that logistics are just a chore. Okay, we're gonna upgrade this fine well here, and we're gonna upgrade this other fine well here as well, pun intended, and you will now see that people are going happier again, and we also have much happier people because the need for clothing is also being fulfilled now. So all in all, the people here are turning out to be super happy, and we have finished the second woodcutter. We don't want to employ that many people though. So let's turn it down a little bit. But altogether, we have now the opportunity to up our woodcutting game as needed, which is really, really important. We're gonna add in a few more longhouses now onto the side of here and add in more people. Let's check back with our food clock. So you see, we have been adding in new people into our city only as long as we could. Now it is time to crank up our productions. Luckily, we have an overproduction of grain that we can utilize here. So let's amp up the number of bakers carefully until we roughly have hit the production mark. There we go. Now, the next step on the list is we're going to activate the job on the clay pit. The clay will be processed into pottery. The pottery then goes into the brewery. We've been over that already. So all in all, we are well on our way of providing booze for the taverns. It's a pretty lengthy job, but it ends up with providing lots of materials that we will be using for our industries. This is an absolute win and gain for us, but currently, well, what can I say? It does take a while to get there. But on the bright side, as you see here, we are fulfilling the needs of our people better and better, while providing more and more research points. This will be, by the way, a mega project in terms of workforce, and you can already plan ahead that you will need sort of a little city center here as well. Basically, the construction that you see here, we will mimic that. We will have a food stall eventually, shrines maybe, hearth and the well, of course, absolutely sure. By the way, these should be put up right away from the get-go, because it is always nice to have these services very available. Let's put them down right next to the clay pit. Find that very fitting. And the hearth goes right next to that. And for some reason, our neighbors want to gift us some money and a piece of armor. I won't say no to that. They are demanding more than often enough. Therefore, we can reap the rewards here as well. Currently, our production rates are more than positive. I'll wait, though, until these trends are really hitting into the stockpiles. We also can upgrade our stockpile capacities for meat, as we obviously still have crates open and the stockpile capacity here is not fulfilled. There is also very much room for another Entelodon pasture, and you quickly will notice that there's always something else you can expand. Welcome to Songs of SYX and enjoy your stay, because that's pretty much where the gameplay loop can and will captivate you at. Now, the construction of the clay pit, I will pull that through between the episodes because this is just a waiting game for a little bit of furniture. I hope you guys enjoyed. We are, well, we did do a little bit of a study about remote things here, and we're slowly working our way towards the booze production. It is all connected with one another, and taverns and alcohol production are one of the most lengthy and complex production chains that the game has in store for you. It's pretty much right on par with many other complex chains, but it is a very, very stable and important chain, and it will ultimately yield also the material that you need for armies, unless something has been changed in V66 that I don't know of yet. Anyways, next episode we are going to start cranking out not only clay, but also pottery, which will be then a pretty big step ahead. I think today we have learned a lot about how to increase your workforce along the way while you're working your way to the new projects. Just upgrade those services and buy the necessary materials from your neighbors out of the materials that you are gathering at the very moment. This pretty much sums up what you will be doing there. So everybody, thanks for watching. Drop me your comments down below, leave me your thumbs up if you enjoyed, and consider subscribing. Down there in the description box you will find a lot of nice links. Among that, the playlist for this entire tutorial series, the Discord server of mine, my Twitch channel, and if you want to support this channel, I'd be more than happy about that. You will find the links to Discord, PayPal, Patreon, and Buy Me a Coffee down there, or just check out the channel membership system. Whatever tickles your fancy, I'd be more than happy if you'd be checking those out. Have a wonderful day and see you all next time.